Okay, so thank you all for coming. I'm Alba. I'm a developer relations senior at Storyblok. And today I want you to know what is behind a DevRel engineer. Because probably you heard about that role, and probably you see a lot of faces and recognizing a lot of people doing this, but not all of us are doing the same. And I want you to know all the stuff that we can do in a company as DevRel engineers. So here you have the QR for the slides if you want to have them in your phone, but of course, everything will be readable, so don't worry about that. Okay, so I want to start telling you about my journey, how I end up in DevRel, and how I migrated from frontend to this role, because it's kind of the easy way and the easy path to go into DevRel, but of course, you can have your own path. But I want to tell you mine because I had a lot of pain points that I want you to learn about if you want to migrate to DevRel one day, because you can be really bad at this if you don't know about them. Okay, so I started in 2015 as a full-stack developer for agencies and consultancies. I was migrating from one and another because I really didn't find my way till I discovered the front-end technologies, and I fell in love with Vue, and I started working for an agency in Ireland, and I discovered my passion for development because of that company. So I started creating projects for a bunch of clients, and every month I have a new client, and I was creating a Spotify-like application in 1 month, really passionate. But then I decided that I want to move on and try different experience in my life, so I decided to go to live abroad, and I moved to Amsterdam. What happened there? Why it's important in this history? Because at the same time I was moving, COVID hit the entire Europe. So I was in a new country without any friends, locked down at home, and my hobbies were outside my home. And I didn't have any hobbies at that time because I couldn't go to concerts, I couldn't go dancing, and I was really stuck. And I decided to have my free time also coding. And that's why I create my own website. I start a project using the technologies I wanted to use, but at work I was using only our own Vue CLI. And I wanted to also explore the ecosystem. So I start working with Nuxt for creating a static site, and also with a Storyblok as a headless CMS of that site, so I can create my content like a content editor without the need of creating a backend every time. So when I started creating my website, I realized that I wanted to explore the production side ready that you can have if you start scaling a project and maintaining it and actually change everything from a project that you already have. So I create also a blog section, and I start writing articles about the tech stack I was learning and about all the techniques I was learning while doing this tech stack. So then I realized that, of course, if you have a blog and you are not famous, no one will read your articles. And then I realized, okay, probably there is platforms or somewhere where I can post them so anyone can read them. And that's why I started discovering the dev ecosystem, Dev2, that is a blog that you can create articles there. But you don't need to create them only there. You can create it everywhere and just use canonical URLs. So I create my articles in my blog, then post it in Dev2, in Hasnode, and a bunch of different platforms. And then all of them were using different formatting for the articles. So I decided to have one source of truth and create the draft of my article in one place and then export it in all the different formats. And that's why I select Notion for that. What happened then? All the articles or blogs out there, like the magazines we have, like Smashing Magazine, View Those, and things like that, start contacting me to create articles on my free time, but paid. So I was working 8 hours, and in my free time, I was creating articles for external sources. Then I realized that I wanted to reach more people, so I started investing time in social networks like Twitter or X, LinkedIn, Instagram, and so on, and creating my own brand without knowing what it was, because at that time, I was just doing it for fun in my free time. What happened? That I create a really huge network of connections that in that moment for me were friends, but then they were actually part of huge companies, and they start making me join programs and different ecosystems in tech that I didn't know about. And that's why companies like Storyblok and the team of Nuxt start contacting me to be an ambassador and be able to create that content with the brand of them in my t-shirt. So I have my whole roadmap. All my clothes are actually swag. That's what I end up having. And because of that, programs like the GDE, the One Mountain Makers, and MVP from Microsoft start contacting me to also be part of that program and be able to spread the word of web technologies in general. What happened then? I decided that I want to move on and do more coding stuff online. So I decided to join open source projects, contributed to them, also creating hackathons, participating in them, winning prizes, taking the advent of code and try to do algorithms. Why not? And then suddenly all the podcasts out there start contacting me to give a speech on my journey, on how I was end up doing that. Of course, it was kind of random. I didn't choose to do that. I was just doing it and that's it. And I really like podcasting. Why not to create a new one? There is not enough podcasts in tech. Let's create one about women in tech, and we can talk about everything related to tech so we can know more ecosystem than only ours. And of course, the companies start contacting me and telling me, wait, if you have a podcast, you are creating articles, why not to give talks? And then I start giving talks, I start doing live streams on Twitch, I start doing courses, workshops, but then, of course, I was burned out. I was working 8 hours, and in my free time, weekends, every time of the day, I was working for other people, for other stuff that actually I didn't choose to do. I just kind of go into that wheel till I end up there. And what happened? The same day, I had a panic attack. The GDE program was making an event to give awards, and they gave me an award for creating content in all the different formats. And that was like a reminder for me, and I have it at home for that, to remind me, if they give you an award, it's because you are actually doing too much. And then that moment was for me the key to decide what I want to do, what I want to be. Because coding is not just the thing. There is so much more in the ecosystem, and I need to choose what I want to do. And that's why I discovered the DevRel engineering role, because I wanted to have a work-life balance so I can do everything I was doing just in the 8 hours at work, and they will support me on that. I wanted to have creative freedom, so if I want to create a pet project to showcase whatever, I can do it because it will give value to the product. I wanted to help developers. I wanted to help developers in the community, but also in the companies creating that product, because I wanted to help them to understand what the community thinks about them. And then I wanted to impact the product growth, because usually I was just coding, but I was never part of the business decisions or just helping grow the product. And I wanted to expand my knowledge, know more than only coding. And that's why I fell in love with the developer role. And of course, you will think, well, developer advocates are the ones that they are out there, and probably they are the ones that you know about, and for that you will think that only the tasks we do are related to the developer advocacy, but that's not true. Developer advocacy is the core of everything we do, but the tasks related to that are not the same as a DevRel engineer. So the developer advocate will be the one that goes to your conference and give a speech like I'm doing, but the DevRel engineer do much more that is not only in the front of that company. And the first thing that we do is community building. Of course, we can have a specific role like community managers that build that community, like creating Discord servers, interacting in the communities in social networks, going to GitHub and reporting issues, whatever. You can also go to the conference booth like we have, and that's probably part of the developer advocacy too. And the idea is in the conference booth, you are not supposed to sell. If you want to sell the product, you will have a salesperson. If you have a DevRel, it's because you want to teach them how to use your product, how to integrate it, and answer the bugs or the question they will have about the technology, not about the business, neither the money. And then we are supposed to create technical content because we don't want you to go to Stack Overflow alone and ask someone if they can help you. We're supposed to have that resources for you. And that's what we do, create the technical content that you need, because you ask for it in other channels like Discord, for example. Then we want to support and give feedback to the product team about what you are speaking about. Because, of course, there is people that are commenting bugs out there, but there is people commenting feedback that they have, like, I don't like using this feature. That's what we need to go back, because the bugs, you report them, but what you feel about the product, you don't report them. You just say it out loud. And that's what we need to do, get the feedback from the DevRels, from the devs to the product team. And of course, there is coding. also for a DevRel engineer. Otherwise, why the engineer, isn't it? So we are working on the DX of the product. We are creating open source projects like SDKs to connect with the technologies you like or with other platforms that you want to integrate with our system. And of course, we also collaborate with other teams like sales teams and partner teams because we need to educate the developers that are using our product in that company. So it's important that we are also in contact to answer them and help them to build a project using our tool. And of course, all these tasks doesn't have any meaning if you don't have a strategy. And that was what happened in Storyblok in the beginning. We were doing. But the results were not measurable because we didn't use a tool for analytics for DevRel. We didn't use anything to measure what we were doing, neither goals. So right now, we created a strategy using Common Room. That is a tool that helps you to measure the sentiment, all the tasks that you created, how they were resolved. You can have a track on how Jira is doing inside Common Room and check if you answer the question of the client. You can be actively checking that your work is actually fulfilling the project and making it change. And of course, all this can be summarized in 4 pillars. Developer education, when we go to a conference and speak to you about the product. Developer experience, when you work in SDKs, open source projects, or things that helps you to integrate with our product. The community building, of course, because you need to be aware of what developer thinks about your product. And of course, your own vibes. Because if you do everything because the company say it, not because you feel it like doing it, it will never have the result that you expect. You need to actually believe on what you are doing. If not, tell your manager, because you need to change what you are doing. You need to always believe what you are doing in order to make the product grow. And if you want to join, what you need to know is, of course, you can start sharing your knowledge and creating content, but do it about the things you like and you do daily. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't over-research, because at the end, there is people that probably know better about that topic. Just talk about what you do and how you do things, because that will help a lot of people, and actually you will connect with more people that do it like you, and you will realize, okay, there is something better. So this is really good. And then contribute to open source in the open source projects that you like, because that's the way to join the team later. There is a lot of DevRels that started, for example, in Astro. They started contributing in GitHub, helping with the documentation, wherever, and they end up being a team member. So that's how you can join also. Then network with other DevRels, because at the end, if you met more DevRels, you will know how they are doing it in their companies, and you will realize what is your path and what you want to be. And at the end, take care of yourself. Don't overwork, because of course for 1 year just to start in DevRel, I can imagine that you will do it in your free time too, but just learn from my experience and don't overcomplicate it. You can do just articles once in a while, and it will be also helpful too. Don't need to rush it and do everything at once. And that's it. Thank you. And if you want to have a party later, you can scan this QR. But this is from Epic.
I guess we'll accept questions without the microphone, because you need a microphone. Yeah. Okay, we have time for questions. Do you have any?
I can do it without microphone. So if you were to choose one type of content or one platform to start with, what would you recommend?
For creating articles, you mean? Because you say content. Okay. If it's videos, I will say YouTube for sure, because at the end, if you don't want to monetize them, it's a perfect place. You will have a search index that will help you. You can also cross-post, like you can tag someone and it will appear when they search for that product, whatever. But if you want to get money out of it, Twitch is better. And it will help you to also create content in different platforms like YouTube. You can always reuse the videos that you create in a live coding session in Twitch. So yeah, that depends on your goal, but yeah.
And for articles?
For articles, I would say always start in this kind of platforms like Dev2 and whatever, but if you, in the long run, want to have your own source of truth, always do it in your own blog and then use the canonical URLs only there, not the other way around. So you are actually, your domain will be better at the end. You're welcome. I can be here.
Okay. Not all of the companies can afford to have DevRel role, but many of us, for example, I am organizing some meetups in Berlin. It takes my time. Do you have any tips how I can persuade my employer to make up, like, how to say, like, give me this time during my working hours?
I think it's difficult if you don't have in the same ecosystem a company that is doing the same as you and don't have any DevRel. But if you compare, for example, frameworks like Astro and Nuxt, Nuxt in 5 years and less users than Astro in 1 year. Why? Because Astro increased the money to spend in DX and DevRels. So at the end, if you share the data, how much a project can grow if they actually have a focus on DevRel and DX, you will freak out. And there is analytics out there. Common Room, the platform, it was created by director of DevRels from Amazon, and she quit to create this platform and make every year an analysis report that you can check on the growth of the companies that decide to invest in DevRels. So you can choose always data that actually compensate that. If your company is a closed project, probably the impact will be different because at the end you need to sell to a company that is external. But at the end, if you are working with developers and your product is tech, you have a tech product, then it will be easy to demonstrate the value of a DevRel team. Thank you. You're welcome. I end up emceeing myself.
Okay. Thank you so much. It was very inspiring, and your example is brilliant. Thank you very much. The question is regarding the organization. Maybe my question a little bit close to yours, but in your organization, to whom you are reporting? It's a chief product officer, or operational director, or some human resource person, because in our company there is quite doubtful. Where it's something in between branding, employer branding, at the same time engineering department, but it's in marketing department, so it's in the middle. And how do you solve it? And what is the best way to organize this role inside of the organization?
Okay, so if I think on a Storyblok, for example, we started being part of the product team since the beginning. And I think it's the way to go. Because at the end, if you are not close to the product team, how you can explain to the audience what you are doing or what you are building, or be up to date with that? So I think the problem is most of companies that fail using DevRels is because they started that as marketing, and they think that the developer marketing is what they want to do. They want to invest in making ads for devs, and that doesn't work. So you need to help them, not sell them. So that's the thing. If you start creating the DevRel team inside the product, you will actually be able to focus on the product, and probably the DevRels will be also involved in coding. Because I heard a bunch of histories of people quitting DevRel because they were not coding enough. And that's because you didn't realize that DX is the main part of DevRel. If we are not improving how you use our product as DevRels and make you easier to use, you will quit because there is other companies doing better. So at the end, you need to be really close to the product, of course. And at the end, if you think of companies that they don't have DevRels, they have product team members creating documentation. They are DevRels, but they don't have that role. But they are, because how you will communicate to external people something you are coding, that's because you have that skill. And that's the skill that DevRel has. But nowadays, we have a role for that. That's the thing. You're welcome.